I recently saw a video, two YouTubers going at it back and forth about eye gouges being effective or not effective, um, and groin shots, kicks to the groin, stuff like this. And one guy, a young guy, was very adamant that these things do not work, and he gave two main reasons, um, and pretty much going against self-defense martial arts and traditional martial arts, because self-defense martial arts and traditional martial arts are kind of in the same area, most of them. Um, Now it's the areas are blurry when it comes to the different, I guess you could say, genres of martial arts. Some of them are sports based, and some of them started off traditional and then became sports based, kind of like Taekwondo, which I guess you could say started off as a traditional mix of martial arts, and then striking martial arts, and then went more into kicking, sports-based martial arts. Um, others stay traditional, like for example karate. Most of it is traditional martial arts, and if you look at the way their techniques start and finish, you could tell that it was a self-defense based martial arts, made specifically for doing a one or two, maybe three moves, and then immediately, fleeing the situation. Now, I have had experience, limited experience, but experience nonetheless with both sports-based martial arts and traditional martial arts. One of them was Taekwondo, which is definitely their training regimen and the way they practice daily is very much a sports-based martial arts. And when it comes to sports-based martial arts, the difference between those and the traditional-based martial arts like Kempo, which I also studied, and I studied, later on. Um, the difference between the two is Kempo is more tradition, not traditional, but close to what a traditional based martial arts does, which is focuses a lot on self defense. Techniques like eye gouging, groin shots, or at least the way I was taught. So the way, let's first talk about something like Taekwondo, which is a sports-based martial arts. Um, so talking about that aspect of it. When you go into one of these classes, they immediately start warming you up, stretching, like an exercise routine, stretching, getting your limbs ready for action. And immediately after that, you do some moves, some kicks. They teach you some kicks, and then you get a partner and you start practicing your techniques on each other, kind of like drills. Then they do, sparring sessions with each other, like say only kicks, right? And then they go to freestyle, which is whatever you want to do, just go light, That's Taekwondo. So and it goes for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, and it's very much like an exercise routine. It's very much, it keeps going and going and going and going and going. And then at the end, you just stretch, you meditate for a little bit, and it's over. So what I'm trying to say is, a sports-based martial arts like Taekwondo is very much about cardio. It's very much about conditioning your body. It's like an exercise routine. Right now, going into something like Kempo, which I studied later, um, you realize that Kempo is a lot more. Yes, you do stretch. Yes, you do warm up. Um, but then after that, it starts turning into just movements, like practicing a certain kata, practicing a certain movement, um, and then you go into drills and practice. Um, you really practice in two or three moves, and then practicing to run away or move out of the way. So it's boom, 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 bam, stomp, and then move out of the way, and do 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 da, and then like three, four moves. Now, what they want you to do in Kempo is don't stop until you feel the threat is over. So you attack your aggressor, and you don't stop until you feel the threat is over, and you move out of the way. So that's why you see a lot of Kempo practitioners. You tend to see them um, do a lot of rapid movements, and then the other guy just stands there. And the reason for that is they're just practicing as many movements as they can to train their brain to explode in a certain, from going to 0 to 100 in small period of time. Now, of course, later on, it's necessary, in my opinion, for you to train, or for you to realize how many of those moves can get in immediately before you can take off. Now, going back to a sports-based martial arts like Taekwondo or like boxing, when you start off with your partner, you go with a partner, you get into a fighting position. And in Kempo, you really don't, or at least the way I was taught, you don't really get into a fighting position. You just learn how to go from 0 to 100 immediately from a standing position. And so the differences between the two, in my opinion, are very wide. Especially, when you compare it also to something like boxing, where both you and your opponent or your partner, whatever you're practicing with, you're both going to go into a stance, either boxing stance or whatever, and then from there you begin the interaction. And where something like Kempo, the way I was taught, is just immediately from a standing position attacking. Now, if you're both standing, you have an aggressor, and you are going to be able to get, especially if you practice a lot, you are going to be able to get about 5 hits in before you leave, right? And that's really what a lot of traditional martial arts train. So, and I understand, the bad rep that Kempo has, especially with all the pictures of Elvis, with his patches and stuff. And you see a lot of these martial artists like Kempo, American Kempo based martial arts. You see them have a lot of badges and stuff, and it has bad rep because of that. And I get it. I understand the bad reputation for American Kempo, especially when you see a lot of the people, slapping around and stuff like that. It looks ridiculous. There is a method to their madness. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And I did learn, a lot of stuff from them, mainly because they have a lot of moves that are from other martial arts and mix them up, like karate and kung fu, and stuff like that. But like I said, it's not for everybody, and I understand if some of the stuff that they do seem kind of like spin jutsu, right, from Ninja Go. I get it, but But I understand what they're trying to do. I understand the mentality behind Kempo and the circular motions that they're trying to accomplish. But what I'm trying to tell people right now is that, there's a difference between a sports-based martial arts and a self-defense martial arts. And the fact that an MMA guy can beat up a self-defense martial arts doesn't mean that the self-defense martial artist sucks. Now, it's just trying to see if a bear can beat a shark in the water, right, or in the sea. Of course, the bear is going to win because he's going to be out of his environment. But it doesn't mean that the shark wouldn't be able to. I mean, the bear wouldn't be able to beat the shark in land. In fact, even if the shark steps in that, he's probably going to be gasping for air, right? So that's basically, that's basically why a lot of these traditional martial artists tend to lose against sports-based martial artists. And if you don't understand it, I'm going to try to explain it a little bit more here. And, after that analogy that I just gave, that should be enough for you to, if you have a logical mind, that should be enough for you to understand why a traditional martial artist is out of his element, or a self-defense martial artist is out of his element when he steps into the ring. So if you train to go from 0 to 100 from a standing position and immediately exit the crime, not the crime scene, but or it could be a crime scene after what you did to him, but and immediately exit the situation, that is totally different from a guy who's training constantly to take punches, right? To go to turn on a switch. So basically, a sports-based martial artist like boxing or MMA or even Taekwondo. Even though Taekwondo is a point-based sports, it still has that switch that goes off. What I mean by switch? So when a boxer puts on his gloves and he steps in the rings and he puts his hands up, if he is, they should be able to turn on a switch in their brain that tells them no pain, right? Especially if they're trained correctly, and really what it is adrenaline. It's just adrenaline. And, the guy that I was talking about, that they were having an argument, he said, and it sounds like he's never been in a fight. That's just my opinion. But he says that the reason they're able to take so much pain is because they're fighting for money. And because they're fighting for money, that somehow that makes them be able to handle more pain. But that's not the case. The case is because they train for the long haul. They train for 15 rounds and 5 minutes, 15 5-minute rounds, and they rest for about 30 seconds. So what happens is their pain resistance is higher because of this, and their ability to go for longer periods of times is higher than someone who trains to only do a couple of hits and then move out of the way. That's the reason. It has nothing to do with competition or money or anything like that. We've all seen the stories of women, having an adrenaline rush and being able to save their babies from harm, or being able to lift cars and stuff like that. We've all heard those stories. So that should tell you what adrenaline does to you. When adrenaline kicks in, it makes you take more pain and, do more things that you weren't able to do before. But that doesn't mean that eye gouges don't work. It doesn't mean that groin shots don't work. It just means that when your adrenaline is high, you're able to take a certain amount of pain. You know what I mean? You're able to take a certain amount of pain. So, having said that, you know, the people that are saying that, you know, Bruce Lee's fake, or 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 these traditional based techniques like eye gouging and groin shots and um, you know, these type of stuff aren't effective, you know, they should look at their own sport and realize that a lot of people are getting poked in the eye, and a lot of people are complaining about it. You know, these are the same types of people that say that this stuff doesn't work. Um, you know, they're even complaining in MMA about kicking to the shin, which is one of the techniques used by someone like Bruce Lee, who a lot of them hate, by the way. Um, you know, oh, Wing Chun doesn't work. Oh, Jeet Kune Do is for losers. You know, stuff like that. This is stuff that a lot of these YouTubers tend to repeat a lot, regurgitate mainly. But then if you look at, you know, how MMA is doing right now, you see a lot of the accidental stuff that's happening, and you understand that these traditional martial arts, or these self-defense martial arts, are onto something. You know, now another one of the excuses the YouTuber said was that if you do eye gouge and if you do kick to the groin in a fight, then you're telling your opponent that now that's allowed, and now he's gonna want to do it to you. That makes sense if it's an MMA fight, or if it's a fight in general. Traditional martial arts isn't thinking about a fight. Traditional martial arts is thinking about causing as much pain as possible in a limited amount of time, and then immediately exiting the situation. This is something that sports-based martial artist isn't thinking. And I was seeing these two guys arguing about that, and I realized that these guys, they can't wrap their heads around a self-defense martial artist mentality. They were saying, oh yeah, so now it doesn't matter if you know that it's allowed anymore, because he's not going to be there to receive it. You know, if he trains in self-defense, he's not going to be there. He's also probably going to grab something and bash you in the head with it or something like that. Now the other defense that they do after you tell them this is, well, that's assault. The thing is, the other thing you gotta understand is you have to read the situation. You know, a person that lives in environments where, you know, fights break out easily, he's gonna know what to do, when to do it, and he's gonna feel when he's in danger. And he's gonna know when he needs to strike, right? That is key. You know, aggression is also key, right? So ultimately, what I'm trying to get to the point is, martial arts is a tool, right? It's a tool, and you can't use a tool that isn't meant for that job. So traditional based martial artists should stay, or self-defense martial artists should stay in their lane and stay out of the octagon, stay out of the ring, because that's not what they're training for, right? And MMA guys should understand that they're two different things. They're two different tools for two different aspects. You know, now, does that mean that a traditional martial artist or a self-defense martial artist could never beat a sports martial artist? Absolutely not. Because what I always say is, to a dangerous mind, everything is a weapon. Everything. It doesn't even have to be meant to kill. It could be something that's sports based, and you could turn it into a weapon, right? But that has to do with